Very good morning to you, and my name is Malcolm Grahamwood, and welcome to Core Finance. Today I've got another COO interview, and today I'm lucky to have Bill Higgs, who's the CEO of Genel Energy, coming back. Welcome back, Bill.
Pleased to see you again, Malcolm.
Yeah, great to see you. It doesn't seem like it, but it was probably near a year ago that you came in and told us what you've been up to as you started the process of your sort of reign at Genel. Now, before we go into the details of what's been going on, if you could, for those people who don't know much about Genel, if you could just give us a bit of just a thumbnail sketch of the overview of the company.
Yeah, sure. So the company is main board listed with our operations predominantly in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. And our net production at the moment is around 40,000 barrels a day from 3 fields that are on production in KRI, which generates a significant amount of cash, which we'll go into the details of shortly. And then that portfolio, we've got some exploration opportunities in North Africa that are more dated.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we said it was going to be a busy year last year, and it was one hell of a busy year.
Yeah.
You had a lot going on. Why don't you talk us through what happened, and then we'll drill into each individual of your assets, if we may.
Yeah. That was a tremendous year. We had production growth delivered mainly through the excellent performance of Peshkabir field, and that growth led to a significant amount of cash generation, $150 million of cash added to the balance sheet, so continuing to strengthen the balance sheet, and ending the year in a net cash positive position, so which was super. I think when we got together a year ago, one of the things about the portfolio at the time was that we had the majority of our production was in a small handful of wells on Torquay field, and so a year later we've got a much more diverse portfolio of high performing wells, even including some good wells at Tak Tak. And so I think that diversification has changed the risk profile on our cash generation as well. And when I say, and as we look forward into 2019, we've got more drilling. We've got a drilling program on every asset in the portfolio, which will further increase that diversification. And in fact, we're drilling more wells in KRI than anybody else this year. So a lot of activity ahead of us, which we're looking forward to seeing that realised into the value of the company, and should be exciting for investors to watch as we go through the year.
Good. And you beat the guidance, which is always good to come in above that, especially given that that number can move around a fair bit.
It's something that chief operating officers are always keen to beat their guidance, particularly in the first year. So we came in slightly above production guidance, and again with production growth forecast for this year as well, and potential more growth beyond. So
you've reiterated guidance for this year as being 4 times the last quarter of last year, roughly.
So we use the guidance of will be around our exit, or around the average for the fourth quarter of last year, so around 36,000 barrels a day on average, and hopefully we can slightly outperform that as well as we go through the year.
Excellent. Now let's drill down into one or two of the assets in particular. I mean, obviously there've been some particularly key. We've got Torquay and Peshkabir, and then we've got Tak Tak. So let's do Torquay and then primarily Peshkabir first of all.
Yeah, I think the activity for Torquay last year was really around just production optimization. We had very little infill drilling activity, so we saw some production decline that we'd expect over the year. And for the year ahead, we're changing that plan, moving back to a much more aggressive drilling program. We'll be drilling 10 wells on Torquay field this year. That will arrest that decline and hopefully provide a little bit of growth. But the real story last year was Peshkabir, just phenomenal.
Exceptional. That came as a surprise to you,
or? Yes. What did I say? Yes and no. Funnily enough, at the beginning of 2017, when we last talked, probably not. I think we had a very, very good view, as has been proven by the reserves that we've just recently announced. A very good view of the fact that the asset had a lot of potential, but it's gone from 5,000 barrels a day to 50,000 barrels a day, and become one of the biggest fields in KRI in 12 months, which is just fantastic. And all credit to DNO as the operator there. They've done a really good job of outperforming their plan for the year. and we have more to come.
Yeah. You won't be drilling quite as many wells on Peshkabir this year, will you?
No, we're looking for probably about 4 wells.
Yeah.
We have a little bit more infill drilling, so part of what we need to do in the early part of this year is consolidate all the new information we've learned from the asset and build that into our development plan, revised development plan for the year ahead. I expect to see more drilling there in 2020.
Yeah. Now, TAC. I mean, I wouldn't have thought again a year ago that we've been talking quite so bullishly about TAC. You're drilling the flanks, and the news is better than certainly I was expecting. But you must be very pleased.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we had the TT29 well that was drilled in 2017 that really proved up the fact that there was still remaining opportunity on the flanks of TAC field, and we've recently put on production the second well that's tested that further out actually, and demonstrated that the free water level is deeper still. So that's producing at around 3,000 barrels of oil per day. So this
that's just gone on stream.
Just gone on stream, yeah. We're forecasting production growth at TAC field. We have four more wells to bring on production this year, all of them targeting this sort of flank of the field. And I think we have, it's a remarkable thing to think about. But with a fair wind, you never know. We might be at 20 to 25,000 barrels a day of production at TAC in 2021,
and we might not have thought about that.
We wouldn't have thought about
that a little while ago.
Yeah.
So I think the really biggest thing that I write about Genel is that from all the things that you just talked about, the cash coming in has been incredible in the last year.
Yes.
In fact, incredible so much that you've turned your minus into a positive. You've got cash coming. Why don't you talk us through the state of the cash situation?
Yeah, I mean it is. We are a highly cash generative business. So we as already said, we added $150 million to the balance sheet last year. We ended the year in a net cash positive position. And again with a fair wind and achieving our production guidance for 2019, we would expect to do the same again.
Yeah.
So very, very robust addition of cash, which puts us in a very good position. And even in a low price environment, we still perform very well. I mean, we've made note of the fact that even at $45 a barrel, for the year of 2019, we would expect to generate $100 million of cash.
Yeah.
And in January, we had the highest ever receipt for the company and the highest ever addition of cash to the balance sheet. And so we can be very confident about that, how much cash we can generate at $45 a barrel, particularly given that January receipt is about a quarter of that cash already, just in the first month alone.
Yeah.
So that puts us in a very good position to look at using that cash for adding growth to the business, and we think we can see this path to incremental growth, which generates rapid returns, and then leaves us with a good position to start thinking about returns to shareholders.
It's a very strong position to be in. One of the things you've done recently is the Chevron acquisition.
Yeah.
And I know that you're planning to tell the market more and more about it with the Capital Markets Day and everything else, but you've been putting out various bits of information. I've had a good look at it. Why don't you talk us through it? Because it seems to me like you've got SATA, you've got something which is exciting, and then in production in not too long, and then you've got an exploration phase as well, haven't you? So talk us through it.
Yeah, no, we're very, very pleased to get the acquisition of those two assets away early this year. They are a perfect fit into the strategy of the company, bringing in SATA and Caradag. SATA is an asset that we see near-term production potential. The first phase of that development, the FID on that will likely be within the next very short period of time. And coming on production in mid-2020. So again, adding diversification and additional cash flow to the portfolio in very quick time. Caradag is more of a exploration appraisal opportunity, but it reminds me so much of Peshkabir. The first well drilled on Caradag was drilled off flank and just managed to clip the oil column, which is a light oil. And so we think that there's real potential there to come up structure and actually use the lessons that we've learned from Peshkabir in this appraise to develop strategy that works very well for KRI, and looking forward to drilling a well there probably in 2020.
And you must know the people here, because I mean, although I know that this was done in a highly competitive,
Yes, it was. Yeah,
but you did a few years at Chevron yourself.
Yes, I did.
You?
Yeah, there was a few old buddies of mine across the table. So I think that certainly maybe made the conversations a little bit more friendly. But it was good. It's good to be working with them.
It's excellent. Yeah, well, it bodes very well for the future.
Yeah, and I think that the key thing, obviously, it's clear at the moment that the value of Sata and Caradag is not represented in our share price today, nor should it be, because we haven't been able to say very much about it. But we're very excited, and we're looking forward to the opportunity in fairly short order to come back and tell everybody about it as we get onto the assets and get moving with the program.
Good stuff. I'd like to move on to Bina Bawi now, because this again is another very important part of the sort of future for Genel. You'll be investing some money, and over the year, I've noticed that there's been sort of discussions about whether there's an oil development or a gas development, and in which order, and who's happy with it. I know you've had very long discussions with the ministry about everything else. Why don't you talk us through how you think Bina Bawi is going to go, and how it's going to be a sort of cash consumer or not, the case may be.
Yeah, I think we have not made as much progress on Bina Bawi as we would have liked to in 2018, but discussions are still very much ongoing with the government around the right shape of the project. And as you and I both know, large gas projects are pretty complex things to get going, and so a lot of 2018 was really focused on trying to reshape the project to something that was investable. And so by doing that, we've agreed with KRG on a smaller first step and focusing that first step on Bina Bawi. And so that has enabled us to get something which I think we can start talking about bringing other people, other players in, both from a debt and equity point of view, to join us in that project. At the same time, we did a lot of work on the upstream project, shrinking the scope, some work on well design and well deliverability, which again also makes the upstream project a very simple thing to execute. So what we're in a position now that I think once we get clarity on the commercial terms, and we can move ahead with the Bina Bawi oil project as the first step of that, excuse me, then we can also be in a position where we can start sort of progressing the gas project, which does have the potential to add a lot of legacy value. But it's clearly not something that we should be taking on a 100% basis.
And more importantly, you're not spending a huge amount of your own money. There have been rumours, as we know, that people say, "Oh, you're going to be spending a fortune on this, and it's all going to be you." You've already said that it'll be partnered and everything else. So,
and I think the key thing there is there's a very small amount of money to invest to get to the next stage of moving this project towards FID. There's a very small amount of work to be done, and being able to do the Bina Bawi oil project as a precursor to that, obviously, I think it demonstrates our commitment to the asset, which is very, very good from a point of view of bringing in third parties. It gives us a line of sight on additional funding for the project. And I think it gives clarity to the marketplace of delivering something that's the right scale to actually be able to execute.
And in oil and gas, which is good, and so it means that people don't need to worry about the fact that you'll be spending all your recently well-won and hard-earned gains, putting it straight back into that, which is very good. Let's now go through the sort of work programme for this year. It's a good time to do it. We're just in the middle of February. You've mentioned it briefly as we go through all the various projects that you've got. Why don't you just talk us through the work programme and the wells and where you're most excited?
Yes. Wells, and wells, I think. We've got to say 10 wells drilling, production wells to be drilled at least 10 production wells to be drilled at Torquay, which will add and stabilise the production profile there. 4 wells to drill at Peshkabir, which a couple of those are going to be continuing to look at the extent of Peshkabir, so an opportunity to maybe potentially add some additional reserves to Peshkabir as we get to the end of the year. as well as hopefully adding production. And then at least 4 additional wells to bring on at Tac Tac, which again means that we will deliver a production growth again this year and sets us up very well for an exit rate in 2019 into 2020. And then more to come again of that in 2020 with the potential for adding 2 more fields onto production in 2020, which again will continue to give us this cash generation growth. Then beyond that, we did some work on both Somaliland and Morocco
I was going to talk about that,
acquiring new data and interpreting data there. And I think our plan of attack will be to move forwards this year to start seeking farming partners, particularly for Somaliland. It's a very interesting basin, very underexplored. The first data acquired in Somaliland for over 25 years. So it's exciting for the guys actually sitting down and looking at these basins that have not been investigated for such a long period of time. So I expect that both of those will be projects that we'll be moving forwards to, and hopefully again with a fair wind, maybe we could be drilling in Somaliland in 2020.
That'd be good. So just finishing off on the cash front, with decent amount of cash coming in, a really good work program with lots of wells to drill. Will you still have money left over for distribution as a dividend or doing other M&A stuff, or are you?
Yeah, and I think that's the story of Genel today. It's a very, very simple story in the sense that we generate a tremendous amount of cash from our drilling activity, and we have a very active program to continue to grow production this year and into next year. So we should continue to see very strong cash generation. We believe we have the opportunity to reinvest that cash into organic and other opportunities that we can also see similar fast returns on. And then there'll still be plenty of cash left in the bank to start thinking about significant returns to shareholders, which has to become part of our strategy. And it was an important part of this diversification that we talked about at the beginning. We couldn't have had this conversation a year ago because we had too many eggs in one basket. As we diversify the portfolio and have more sources of cash generation, it becomes something that we can be more confident in.
Excellent. Now, funny enough, we've got almost to the end of the interview, and a question which would normally in the old days have been a Genel first question is almost an irrelevance in the sense that what's the political situation like in Kurdistan, the relationship with the ministry, the fact that it's Iraq, a member of OPEC who may be under production restrictions and so on. I have to ask you about the situation, elections of last year seem to have been forgotten about. And
well, I think it's a good thing again in the year that since we last got together, we've stopped advertising. You get paid every month, which is I think is a good reflection of the fact that the political situation there is very stable. We've been paid continuously for a very long period of time, and see absolutely no reason why that won't continue. So it's which is fantastic because you shouldn't be announcing that you're getting paid. And you've had local elections, expecting to form a government here shortly. But again, the political environment is very strong, very favourable to investment. I think the hard decisions that the Kurdistan government regional government had to make were in the beginning of last year, and their revenue's been increasing because of the increase in production, and I think they're seeing they want to attract capital for increased growth in the region. So it's been a very good place to be working.
Excellent. So finally, the wrap, whatever you like to call it. I always ask the last question. Where would you? I mean, you've given us a really decent overview, detailed knowledge of what you're going to be drilling, where the cash coming in. Just an overall, where would you like to see the company in 12 to 18 months' time?
Twice as big, which I don't think is unreasonable. I think we've got a tremendous amount of growth opportunity in the portfolio. The addition of the assets at Sarta and Karadag is a big help to looking at building that growth in cash flow out beyond from 2020 and beyond the RSA. So I think we're very comfortable that. We're on this journey of being able to be quite selective about the opportunities we want to add in to accelerate that growth, whilst at the same time making sure that we're disciplined in our capital allocation, looking for returns, and if the returns aren't there, then being willing to return cash to shareholders.
Bill, that sounds very good. Thank you for coming by.
Oh, great to be here as ever. Thanks, Sam.
It's been great to have Bill Higgs, the COO of Genel Energy, in at Core Finance this morning. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I'm Malcolm Grahamwood. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much.